A few months ago, I took a job as a janitor at the old city hospital. I worked night shifts to help pay the bills while chasing my dream of writing horror stories. Let me tell you, this place was creepy. The lights flickered and the hallways stretched on forever. I felt uneasy, but I figured I could handle it. After all, I was there to clean. As I scrubbed the floors, I started hearing strange sounds. Soft footfalls echoed off the walls. My heart raced each time I thought it was a nurse making her rounds, but every time I looked, there was nothing. I shook my head and dismissed it as my nerves. When I checked the supply closet, everything was where I left it. Just me and my cleaning supplies. I convinced myself it was all in my head. But then the weird stuff ramped up. One night, as I wiped down a patient room, I saw a light flicker behind me. I turned, and the medical equipment was turning on by itself. My skin crawled as I stared at the machines. I thought maybe I missed a switch. Yeah, that's what I kept telling myself. Just a power surge. The shadows started playing tricks on me, too. They darted in and out of my vision. Each time I turned my head, I felt a chill. I tried to focus on my work. I wanted to ignore everything I sensed. Then one morning, my heart sank. I opened the supply closet, and everything looked different. The supplies I had organized were in disarray. I knew I was alone. The feeling twisted in my stomach, heavy and light at the same time. I stepped back, looking at the closet like it was haunted. My mind raced. Should I keep working? That night, the footsteps returned. They echoed louder, and I sensed something behind me. I turned around quickly, and, of course, nothing was there. I blinked, trying to shake the feeling off. Maybe I was just imagining things again. I gripped the mop tightly. I wanted to run, but I needed the paycheck. Then I saw an open doorway down the hall. It was dark inside. It pulled at me, almost whispering my name. My heart pounded. I could hear breathing, too. It felt wrong. I took a step back, but it got louder and more frantic. Then I heard it, a whisper. "Help me." I couldn't stay. I bolted out of there, my legs moving before my brain could catch up. I still wonder what happened that night. Was it all in my head? A trick of the old building? I never found out. What I know is I still feel chilled when I think of that open door and the whisper that called for help. Some nights I wake up thinking about it, but no one can tell me what I experienced. The hospital still stands, old and eerie, and I wonder if I could ever go back again. The next night I returned to the hospital, nerves set on high. I told myself I was there to work, not to let my imagination run wild again. As I stepped inside, the stale air wrapped around me like a thick blanket. I could still hear the ghostly whisper echoing in my head. "Help me." I shivered involuntarily. I headed straight for the supply closet. I bolted down the hallway, heart racing, desperate for any sign of safety. The darkness pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. I stumbled blindly, my hands outstretched to prevent myself from crashing into the walls. The footsteps continued behind me, a relentless echo that pushed me to go faster. I felt a cold rush of air sweep past my shoulder. Too close. With a sudden burst of adrenaline, I turned a sharp corner and slammed into the door of the nearest room, flinging it open. Inside, I found a small supply room filled with dusty shelves and old medical equipment. I stepped inside and shut the door, my breath coming in ragged gasps. The whispers outside faded, but I could still feel the presence of something lurking nearby. It was too quiet now, almost as if the air had thickened with anticipation. I leaned against the door, heart hammering in my chest, trying to calm myself. I had to think clearly. What did I just experience? As I collected my thoughts, I noticed a worn-out journal lying on a table, its pages yellowed and frayed. Curiosity pulled me in, despite the ominous atmosphere. I picked it up and flipped through the pages. The handwriting was uneven, shaky. It seemed to contain accounts of patient care, but then I hit a section that made my skin crawl. The entries shifted from mundane details to distressed notes. "They hear us," one read. "Too many of them." Another stated, "We can't help them, not anymore." My stomach dropped. Who was them? I turned the pages anxiously, looking for answers. Then I found it. A name. Clara. My breath caught. It was the same name I had overheard whispered earlier. I suddenly recalled the nurse in the photograph, her face hauntingly familiar. Was she Clara? Had she been trying to tell me something? Suddenly the door rattled, snapping me back to reality. I flinched as whispers resumed, more urgent this time. "Help us! Help us!" There was desperation in their voices now, more than just a plea. It sounded like a warning. I grasped the journal tightly.
options. Should I confront whatever was on the other side, or should I try to escape? The door shuddered again, and I could hear soft sighs, almost like mourning. I stepped back, my heart racing. Fear churned in my gut. Just as I was about to push it open and make a run for it, I heard a sound that froze me in place. A faint, high-pitched cry coming from the hallway. It was distinctly the voice of a child. "Help me, please." My instincts kicked in. I couldn't let that child suffer alone. I opened the door cautiously, peering into the dimly lit hallway. The whispers had transformed into an unsettling chorus, mixed with soft weeps that coiled around me. With the journal still clutched in my hand, I took a tentative step forward. I could feel the weight of unseen eyes on me, urging me to follow the cries. The darkness seemed to part just enough to reveal a flicker of pale light ahead. But was it safe?
It felt like I was being pulled into a nightmare, and I didn't know if I would emerge the same. As I moved toward the light, the whispers surged in intensity. "Help us! Find her!" I hesitated, my heart in my throat. What exactly was I getting myself into? Then the light flickered, illuminating the hallway for just a moment. In that flash, I saw a figure, a small girl, her eyes wide with fear. I had to help her. But as I rushed toward her, the whispers shifted, intertwining with a new voice, one that I recognized all too well. Clara. "Stop! Don't go any further!" I froze. What I had thought was a call for help had turned into a warning. Too late to turn back now. I focused on the girl ahead, my pulse hammering with dread. Whatever was waiting for me, I had to face it. No more running. I took a deep breath and took a step forward. The echo of Clara's warning still rang in my ears, but the girl was pleading for help. I couldn't ignore her. As I closed the distance between us, the air buzzed with tension. The whispers turned into a cacophony, each word tangled in fear and regret. "Help me!" the girl cried again, her voice a fragile thread in the dark. I called out, "I'm coming! Where are you?" I couldn't see her clearly, but I felt her desperation. Then the light flickered again. I saw her more distinctly in the shimmer. She was small, maybe 8 or 9 years old, with messy hair falling over her forehead. An old dress hung from her tiny frame, dirt streaked across the fabric. But what struck me was the emptiness in her eyes. Something was not right. "Please," she whimpered, taking a step back, revealing a doorway behind her. It felt like a trap, but I couldn't let that stop me. I reached the entrance to the room, glancing cautiously behind me. The hallway was still shrouded in darkness. "It's okay," I said gently, trying to mask my fear. "I'm here to help you." "Not safe," she whispered, the shadows creeping closer to her. "They want you." I hesitated. The words hung in the air like a warning. But how could I leave her? Before I could react, the girl turned and darted into the room behind her. I followed instinctively, my heart racing even faster. As I stepped through the doorway, I found myself in a cramped, dimly lit room that smelled of mildew. The walls were lined with cracked tiles, and a single flickering bulb hung from the ceiling, casting bizarre shadows. "Where are you?" I called. The door slammed shut behind me with a force that made me jump. The sound reverberated against the walls, and I quickly turned to try the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Panic surged within me. "Help!" I yelled, pounding on the door. "Let me out!" A thick silence settled around me. My breath quickened. Then I heard it, the unmistakable sound of faint laughter echoing through the cramped room. Not the innocent laughter of a child, but something far more unsettling. It was twisted, almost mocking. My thoughts raced. What was happening?
Were the stories in the journal true? I turned back to address the girl, but she stood in the far corner, her face partially hidden in shadow. "They are coming," she whispered, almost to herself. "You can't help them." "What are you talking about?" I shot back, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Who's coming?" Suddenly, the flickering bulb dimmed to almost nothing. I squinted, trying to make out her features. That's when I saw it. Her eyes, wide and hollow, seemed to reflect something sinister. A chill coursed through me. "What are you?" I asked, my voice trembling. The laughter grew louder, bouncing off the walls. "They'll take you," she said, taking a step back. "You need to leave, now!" I lunged for the door again, desperation clawing at my throat. I was caught in a nightmare, and I didn't know how to break free. As I hammered the wood with my fists, the girl's figure flickered like the light above. That's when everything went dark. I stumbled backwards, panic coursing through me like electricity. The darkness wrapped around me, thick and suffocating. My heart pounded in my chest, drowning out the laughter that had filled the air. I was trapped in this void, caught between fear and confusion. A faint glow began to seep through the darkness, illuminating the corners of the room just enough for me to make out the outlines of the cracked tiles and peeling walls. The girl was gone. My throat tightened. Had it all been a trick? What had just happened? I turned back to the door. With all my strength, I threw my shoulder against it, but it wouldn't budge. My mind raced, searching for answers. "Help! Somebody help!" I called out, but the sound echoed back, an empty mockery. That's when I noticed a flicker of movement to my right. I whipped my head around, squinting into the growing light. At first I thought it was the girl again, but it was something else entirely. A dark shape loomed in the corner, shrouded in shadows. My stomach dropped. "Who's there?" I managed to choke out, my voice barely above a whisper. The shape shifted, revealing a figure. It was tall and distorted. I felt a wave of dread wash over me. "Why are you here?" the figure asked, though its voice was not like any sound I could recognize. It was gravelly, layered with echoes. A chill ran down my spine. I was trying to help her," I stammered, my thoughts scrambling. "The girl, she needs help." "She's not what you think," it said, stepping closer. I could see it more clearly now. Dark eyes, features too elongated, like a twisted reflection of a person. "You should not have come. This place is not for the living." "What do you mean?" I felt the walls begin to close in. "Where is she?" "She is ours now," the figure said, its voice thick with menace. My chest tightened. I knew I had to escape. I turned back to the door again, slamming my shoulder against it one more time. I felt the wood creak under the pressure. "Let me out!"
"You can't keep me here." The figure laughed, a low, rumbling sound that echoed menacingly. "You think you can leave? The darkness hungers." Then I heard a scuffling noise, and the shadows shifted again. My heart raced as I turned around. From the darkness, a multitude of small figures emerged, each one resembling the girl I had seen, a mirror of her in shreds and tatters, faces hollow and eyes wide with a haunting emptiness. They moved as one, circling around me. "You cannot escape," they chorused, their voices overlapping, blending into a dissonance of fear and despair. "You will be one of us." I felt a cold wave of dread settle over me. Fueled by desperation, I kicked the door with all my strength. It rattled, but didn't break. A sudden tremor shook the ground beneath my feet, reminding me of how fragile my reality felt. Then the flickering light overhead burst with a loud pop, plunging me back into darkness. I felt their small hands grasping at me, pulling me back. "No!" I screamed. In that moment, I heard a sound, a low growl resonating from deep within the shadows, something ancient and fearsome that sent a jolt of terror through me. And just like that, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. Then, everything fell silent. The silence felt deafening. I stood frozen, heart racing, straining to hear anything in the thick darkness. Then I noticed the faint growl again, echoing off the walls, growing closer. The small figures, still circling me, suddenly stopped. Their hollow eyes turned toward the source of the sound, as if they were waiting for something. As I stood there, my mind raced. I needed to escape. The growling persisted. It wrapped around me, almost like a warning, but also beckoning me, promising something in just out of reach. I swallowed hard and took a shaky step back, every instinct shouting at me to run. But where would I go? I was trapped. Then a flicker of light appeared in the corner of my eye. I turned toward it, squinting against the oppressive darkness. It was a tiny flame dancing precariously in the air, barely illuminating the space around it. What was it doing here? The flame grew steadier, revealing a narrow path through the darkness. My heart leapt. Maybe this was a way out. I hesitated. The figures shifted slightly, their eyes narrowing as they focused on me. "You cannot leave," one of them whispered, but it sounded different this time. There was a note of fear mingled with the usual haunting echo. "What happened to her?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Where did she go?" Silence. The flickering flame illuminated the path just enough for me to see the exit ahead. It looked closer than it had any right to be. Adrenaline surged through me, enough to override the whispers of doubt echoing in my mind. I rushed toward the light, pushing past the shadowy figures. They shrieked as I moved through them, their cries a mix of rage and desperation. I didn't look back.
I could feel the cool air of the exit brushing against my skin, promising freedom. I was almost there when a hand like ice clutched my arm, yanking me back. "Stay with us," it hissed. I could feel the cold seeping into my bones, sapping my strength. Panic struck me. In that moment of vulnerability, I caught sight of the growling creature emerging from the dark. It was massive, a grotesque assembly of shadows and nightmares. Its eyes burned like embers, and its mouth opened wide, revealing rows of jagged teeth. I couldn't breathe.
Fear paralyzed me as it stepped forward. "Join us," it roared, and the room shook, the very walls trembling from the force of its voice. I felt the grip on my arm weakened for a brief moment. With a surge of instinct, I broke free. I plunged toward the exit. The glow of the flame flickered wildly as I reached for it. I could feel those cold eyes watching me, the desperation of the figures behind me growing louder. Just as I leapt for the doorway, the ground trembled once more. The door frame warped as if the walls themselves recoiled from my presence. I felt a rush of air at my back, something dark drawing closer, snapping at my heels. Then the light vanished. I landed hard on the cold tiles, panic clawing at my throat as the darkness engulfed me once again. But as I lay there, I heard something different, a low whisper threading through the silence. "Help us." It was the voice of the girl, sweet yet filled with despair. My heart raced at her words as dread crept back in. What had I done? Who was asking for help? Before I could gather my thoughts, the shadows around me shifted once more. I struggled onto my knees, feeling the weight of countless eyes on me. I had to know the truth, but just as I turned to confront the shadows, the walls whispered back, "You will never leave." I blinked as the darkness pressed in around me, the whispers quieting down to a low hum. My heart hammered in my chest. Had I truly escaped the figures, or was this just another nightmare? I couldn't stay here, not with a growling creature prowling nearby and shadows swirling hungrily around me. "Help us." Someone's voice rose above the murmurs, clear this time. It was the girl again. My stomach twisted with uncertainty. What did she want? Could she lead me to safety, or would she trap me even deeper in this nightmare? I pushed myself onto my feet, my legs shaky beneath me. In the dim light that barely seeped from somewhere unknown, I scanned the area, hoping for any clue, anything that could help me find my way out. The cold tiles beneath my feet felt real, grounding me, but the air was thick, clinging to my skin like a warning. "Where are you?" I called out, my voice a mere whisper against the suffocating silence that followed. The shadows swayed, drawing closer, and then I saw her. She stood at the edge of the flickering light, her outline ghostly against the darkness. My breath got in my throat.
She looked just like the figure from before, but now her face was more pronounced, clearer. There was a sadness in her eyes that struck me hard. "Please," she implored, stepping forward, "you have to help us. We can't escape without you." "Why can't you just leave?" I demanded, instinctively taking a step back. "What do you want from me?" Her expression twisted, a mix of desperation and sorrow. "They won't let us go. We're bound to this place." She faded slightly, her voice trailing off. Suddenly, the growl resounded again, unmistakably closer. I felt the pull of dread as the room vibrated with the creature's presence, a heavy shadow that loomed just beyond the light. I could feel its anger in the air, a palpable force threatening to consume me. With little choice left, I squeezed my eyes shut. "What do you want?" I shouted into the void, praying for an answer. But deep down, I feared what I might learn. The moment hung, stretching agonizingly as my heart raced furiously in my chest. Then a chill swept through the air, thick and suffocating. I opened my eyes just as the girl raised her hands, translucent fingers reaching out toward me. "You must understand," she urged. "The only way to break their hold is to confront the truth buried here." "What truth?" I pressed, desperation lacing my voice. But before she could reply, the ground trembled violently, and the figures surged toward us, their hollow eyes burning with an intensity I have never seen. I felt paralyzed, caught between the girl's fragile hope and the shadowy figure's wild fury. I needed to choose, but a new voice cut through the noise, the creature's growl morphing into a chilling command. "Stay with us." That's when I noticed it. The wall behind the girl was shifting. A door, barely perceptible until now, began to crack open slightly, revealing a sliver of light. The figures halted, glancing back toward the door as if sensing something that even I could not. "Go!" the girl urged, her eyes pleading. Suddenly the shadows pulsed, moving to close the gap between us. This was it. There was no time left. I took a breath, an unexpected surge of determination flooding through me. "I'll make it out!" I yelled as I dashed toward the light. The growling echoed behind me, a cacophony of rage and despair. I couldn't look back. It was either freedom or entrapment, with only one choice remaining. But as I rushed toward the door, the whispers shrieked in unison, "You will never leave." I
I charged toward the door, the crack of light growing larger as I hurriedly closed the distance. The air behind me crackled with anger as the shadows surged forward, their cries merging into a deafening roar. In that moment, I thought of nothing but escape. The girl's voice echoed in my mind, a last plea driving me on. Just as I reached the door, a fresh wave of anguish crashed into me, pulling me back.
The shadows pooled around my feet, tendrils of darkness coiling like serpents. It felt as if the very ground was reaching out to clutch me, dragging me down into the depths of despair. I stumbled for a moment, my fingers grazing the edge of the doorframe. Then, with desperation fueling my actions, I pushed myself through the narrow gap. The sensation of cold air washing over me was exhilarating yet terrifying. I had no idea what lay ahead, but I was done being afraid. I would face whatever came next. The light enveloped me, blinding at first, and I stumbled forward. When the brightness faded, I found myself in a dimly lit corridor, lined with rusted medical equipment and peeling walls. The air smelled musty, filled with the weight of old memories that didn't feel quite right. Everything around me vibrated with an undercurrent of unsettling energy. I turned around to look behind me, but the door had vanished. The shadows were nowhere to be seen, and I was left in this oppressive silence. I felt a mix of relief and unease. Had I really escaped, or simply slipped into another nightmare? A chill ran down my spine as I considered that possibility. Suddenly, a figure caught my attention at the far end of the corridor. My pulse quickened. It was another girl, similar to the one I had just encountered, but this one looked even less substantial. She appeared to flicker, her outline shimmering like a mirage. I hesitated, unsure if she was real or another trap. "Help us," she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're the only one who can." "Can't you see I just got away?" I blurted out, panic clawing at my throat. "What do you want from me?" "Confront them," she urged, taking a hesitant step closer. "You'll never be free unless you face the truth. Find it in the old room." "Where's the old room?" I gasped, glancing around. The corridor stretched endlessly in both directions, shadows creeping along the walls like restless spirits. "Follow me," she beckoned. Without waiting for her response, she started down the corridor, her form growing more defined with each step. Cautiously, I followed her, each footfall echoing in the silence, heart hammering against my chest. As I walked, a cold wind sliced through the corridor, making me shiver. Then I noticed something on the floor, metallic glints among the dust. I leaned down, picking up a rusted key, its edges sharp and unfamiliar. I pocketed it, but unease settled in my stomach. Something told me it was significant, though I didn't know why. "Keep going," the girl urged, glancing back with urgent eyes. "You're running out of time." Just then, I heard a low growl echoing through the hallway. Panic surged in my chest. "What was that?" I asked, feeling the shadows closing in around me again. "Something you must face," she replied, fear creeping into her voice. "It's coming for you." With that, the dim corridor flickered, shadows and light colliding in a chaotic dance.
I braced myself as the growl grew louder, reverberating off the walls like an impending storm. I didn't know what awaited me, but one thing was clear: I couldn't back down now. The girl reached another door and pushed it open. "In here," she urged, the glint of hope returning to her features. I raced towards her, the growl growing ever closer. But just as I crossed the threshold, everything went dark. It took a moment for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. I was engulfed in a thick, suffocating absence of light, where even the sound of my heartbeat seemed muted. I stood still, waiting for my senses to catch up. The growl was gone, just a distant echo now, fading into an unsettling silence. "Are you okay?" The girl's voice pierced through the gloom, faint but close. I turned, desperate to see her. "Where are you?" I stumbled, my voice trembling. I felt around, fingers brushing against what felt like a wall. It was rough and cold, like concrete. "I'm here," her voice came again, clearer now, and I focused on it, inching toward the sound. Suddenly, the darkness shifted, and faint light flickered to life, illuminating the room around me. I gasped as I took in my surroundings. The room looked like a forgotten examination room. An old operating table lay at the center, surrounded by dusty, abandoned medical tools. The walls were painted a sickly green shade that peeled away in layers, revealing more of that cold concrete behind it. A strange smell hung in the air, a mix of mildew and something metallic. "Why did you bring me here?" I whispered, gazing around, fear creeping back. Nothing felt safe in this place. "You need to uncover the truth," she said, stepping into the faint light.
This is part of it. You have to remember. Remember what? The doubt gnawed at me. I had no memories of this place, but something deep inside felt slightly familiar. I looked towards the girl, her face like a soft whisper in the darkness. That's when I saw it. A shadow moved across the back wall, a figure shifting in and out of the golden light. My breath caught. What is that? It's them, she said, her voice trembling. You have to confront them. What do you mean? Who are they? I felt the hairs at the back of my neck stand up, dread pooling in my stomach. A large shape loomed closer from the shadows, and I felt a sudden urge to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. The silhouette morphed into a solid form, dark and menacing. I squinted, trying to make sense of what I was seeing, but as it stepped forward, I could feel the cold gripping my heart. Face your fears, the girl urged, her figure flickering beside me. The growling returned, a chilling sound that curled around my spine. I tore my gaze from the creature to look at the girl, desperation flooding my voice. What if I can't? It's all part of it, she insisted. You have the key. I abruptly remembered the rusty key in my pocket.
My fingers curled around it, unsure of what I was supposed to do, yet compelled by a strange pull. I raised the key, trembling, as the dark figure loomed closer. Turn the key. Unlock what you need to see, she whispered. With an unsteady hand, I moved the key towards the shadows, feeling both hope and terror collide within me. Then, without warning, the shadow lunged forward. The world around me jerked violently, blurring into chaos. My breath hitched as the light extinguished again, leaving me in darkness. But now there was a flicker of understanding lighting up the edges of my mind. I had to confront whatever waited in the dark if I wanted to be free. The darkness roared back, swallowing me again, but I clutched the key tightly in my fist. My heart raced as the whispers surged anew, overlapping like a tempest in my ears. As the growling echoed violently, I felt both fear and an impossible curiosity tugging at me. What lay hidden in the depths of this hospital? I channeled every ounce of will I could muster and called out, I will face whatever is here. My voice rang out, breaking through the overwhelming darkness. The room trembled, and the growl ceased for a moment, as if stunned by my resolve. Shadows swirled around me, alive yet unfeeling. Then I took a breath, casting my fears aside for just a moment, and finally called for the girl. Show me! In response, a faint glimmer of light broke through the shadows, illuminating a sprawling mural on the far wall. Scenes burst to life, hospital staff visiting patients, whispers of comfort and hope wrapping around the figures like a warm blanket. Yet overlaid with that warmth was something darker, a hidden thread swirling like smoke, a suppression of truth that clawed at the edges of memory. The girl beside me stepped closer, her form solidifying under the glow. You need to see what happened. Those who worked in this hospital, they couldn't save everyone. I approached the mural, curiosity outweighing my fear. As I dared to study each vibrant yet haunting frame, the atmosphere thickened. Instinctively, I knew I was on the precipice of something monumental. Images of sorrowful children, shadows flooding through the narrow corridors, faces stricken with despair, began to mix together. Pain blossomed into a collage of memories. What is this? I whispered, my throat tight with emotion. They were abandoned, the girl said softly, their voices silenced. They remained here, trapped between the living and the dead, waiting for someone, anyone, to listen. Suddenly, the growl pierced the air again, louder this time, sharper. The shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, more tangible than before. Its eyes glowed with a mixture of rage and sorrow. I felt paralyzed, caught between the ghosts of the hospital and the creature hell-bent on keeping me prisoner. Turn the key, the girl insisted. Unlock the truth. You can stop this. My hand trembled, and I raised the key as the shadow advanced.
The growl became a roar, the air vibrating with tension. I squeezed my eyes shut, focusing on the warmth of the girl's presence beside me, the cold clawing at my back. Then, without hesitation, I thrust the key toward the looming shadow. I won't run away anymore, I shouted, piercing through the dark. In that instant, the shadows screamed, more desperate than ever. The key collided with the dark mass, and in a flash, everything erupted into blinding light. I felt like I was being torn apart and reformed, an explosion of memories flooding my senses all at once. Visions raced through my mind, the anguish of children neglected in the hospital, the nurses who tried but failed to save them. I grasped the truth with each tremor. They were lost souls, bound together by an unfulfilled promise, seeking recognition and release. And then I understood. I was not just their witness, but their hope. As the light expanded, it pushed the shadows away from me, emphasizing the key in my palm. I realized I held the power to set them free. The girl smiled, her face warm with something like gratitude. The moment solidified in my mind as the darkness receded. I took a step forward into the shimmering light, feeling the warmth enveloping me. The howls and whispers grew fainter, replaced with echoes of relief. The creatures began to dissolve, set free by the act of recognition and remembrance. The figure stepped backward, the growl fading into silence, and I saw their shapes flicker one last time before they vanished into the depths I had released them from. And just like that, I found myself standing alone in the now calm room, still deep within the old hospital. The walls that had once intimidated me now felt like the remnants of a struggle finally resolved. But even as I caught my breath, I realized the truth hadn't come without a cost. The gaping hole of unanswered questions left behind lingered just beyond the walls. Are they truly free? I wondered aloud, feeling a knot of uncertainty twist in my gut. What echoes might remain of the past? Would I ever understand what chained them here from the beginning? The hospital still stood tall outside, its dim interior no longer threatening, but now teeming with the weight of past sorrows. I took a tentative step back toward the exit, feeling freed yet haunted. There remained a lingering pulse of mystery around me, questions unasked, the lines separating the supernatural from reality forever blurred. As I turned the knob, ready to step out, I felt one last whisper brush against my skin, a soft, longing plea for remembrance. I paused before leaving, in that moment of quiet reflection. "I'll never forget you," I whispered, knowing the weight of those words meant more than a goodbye. The world spilled outside with the first light of dawn, but I carried a chill within, a mark of uncertainty, intertwined with an inexplicable resolve to confront the unknown.
I moved on, but deep down, I knew I would never truly escape the shadows of the hospital.